أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. So the first night we talked about the source of our love, the thing which brings us to this particular tent today, this wudda. And we said that it was sourced where? We said it was sourced in the faith that Abu Abdullah had in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his a'mal as-salih, his good deeds that he performed in his lives. So this love of ours, this wudda that was blessed to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, found its source in Abu Abdullah himself. He is the one who has brought us to his own tent tonight. Then we saw some examples of people who claimed to have good belief systems and how in practice, when time came to show the fruits of these belief systems, they failed. We gave the example of Hassan Basri, and we also gave the example of the masses that had gathered around Hazrat Muslim. The second night, we said, let's look at what caused these fruits to not really show up when they were needed. We said if the root of our belief system, if this love of Abdullah forms the root of our belief system, it's a root belief system, and this root belief system is not giving any fruits, then let's see why. Perhaps it's infected with termites. The next day, we saw what these termites were. We looked at Wasswas, non-divine whispers. We said Wasswas affects man at three levels. At the level of action, najasa, tahara issues. At the level of relationships, and we gave some relationships there. But the concept of how Wasswas affects a relationship isn't limited to the relationships that I mentioned. For a much more intensive list, I ask you to go home and look at Risalatul Huquq of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. There he mentions certain relationships that man has with other things that don't typically come to our mind if we were to sit ourselves and think. Relationships like man, between man and his ears and his eyes. Relationships between man and his 24 hours. We saw what Waswas actually does is he pushes man to transgress, to go beyond the bounds that he's allowed to be in. And we saw the Holy Quran telling us that man does that when? Man does that when he finds himself to be ghani, when he finds himself to be not needy. Okay. When he doesn't need an outside rule telling him exactly how much water to use for tahara, he abuses it. He spends 3 hours cleaning. When he feels that he is the true owner, he is the true sustainer of his own ears and hands, ears and eyes, then he transgresses. He says, I will watch and I will hear that which I want to watch and hear. He transgresses, fooling himself, making himself think that he is the true sustainer of these eyes and these ears. In a very similar way, when man sees his relationship with this 24 hours in the same manner, he believes that it's my time. When he claims that he is the sustainer of himself in this time, then he transgresses there too. We continued the talk and talked about this idea of the heart of a mu'min having two ears. And we analyzed that concept of two ears we got from a hadith. And we said, let's explain this example by means of landing strips. Now, these landing strips have a ripple effect to them. We talked about that. If you develop one type of landing strip, it allows for that particular type of cargo to land in your heart. If you develop the divine landing strip, the divine cargo will come into your heart. And if you develop the non divine one, then that respective cargo will come into your heart. We said two main things after that I want to reiterate, highlight, point out, and then we'll continue today, inshallah. When you allow a particular cargo to land, that further develops that landing strip. That's a key point. What does that mean? It means not only can that type of cargo land more often, but rather the consecutive cargo to come is greater in strength too. The other effect this does, if you activate, if you form this one particular type of landing strip, it deforms the other one. It prevents the other type of cargo from landing. So if you develop and form in your hearts the landing strip that allows the divine inspirations to come, by definition, that deforms the other landing strip, prevents waswas from coming into our hearts. Okay. So we talked about why access the belief system. Why should we assess this belief system? We talked about how waswas affects man. And today's topic, today's question that we want to answer is, how does waswas affect at the level of the root belief system? What was the general effect of waswas? What did it push you towards? It pushed you towards transgression, to break boundaries. Okay. This effect holds. In the action sense, it pushed you towards israf. And Allah told us in the Holy Quran, Allah says, Surah Ghafir, verse number 43, وَأَنَّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ هُمْ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ. Okay. If you do israf, these guys are the people who do israf, who fall prey to waswas, what's the result of transgression? You become the ashab of hellfire. This effect holds at every level. When you transgress, what's the result of that transgression? A naturally occurring result is hellfire itself. That transgression itself is actually hellfire for you. So what happens to these belief systems, these root belief systems? The appearance of the root belief system stays the same, but then the actuality goes out the window when waswas comes towards them. We saw some examples in the past. See, we as Muslims, we have many beliefs. Let's look at some of them. We believe that Karbala is a place for us to learn from. Okay? We believe that Shahada is a good thing. We believe that Raja'at, the coming back of the Ma'sumin, is a true actuality. Okay? We believe the Mi'raj, the journey of the Holy Prophet, was a real one. It wasn't in his dream. We have many beliefs like this. But how many root beliefs do we have? We have three main root beliefs. What are they? We have the belief in the origin, Tawheed. We have the belief in the destination, Ma'ad. And then we have a belief in the in-between, which is this divine wilaya. Our destination, what do we say? Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Our destination is a return to the origin. So now the position of this in between, this divine wilaya is what? It's to assist in us returning to the origin, hence guiding us towards the right destination. So these three serve as our main root belief systems. Now, when waswas comes into these root belief systems, what does it do? Well, first and foremost, it separates the three. It makes you look at them like a list, independent from one another. Tawheed, separate. Wilaya, meaning Nabuwa, and Imama, separate. Tawheed, meaning Tawheed, and Adala, separate. And Ma'ad, separate. So it divides into three, each being seen as an independent thing. What happens when you can separate these three? Well, now waswas comes and starts to eat away at their actuality. See, when the three were together, when they were understood together, right? That was the actual way of understanding this root belief system. Having an origin and a destination, and then the role of that wali, the role of that divine wilaya was what? To lead man to the right destination, which was what? By definition was a return to the origin, Tawheed. All of it was pushing us towards what? Towards the origin, towards Tawheed. When you come and you separate them and look at the three as independent entities, what happens? Now waswas can come and erode the essence and the reality of these three. It deforms the meaning. Let's look at two extremes here. The first extreme, waswas does what? It separates the root belief system of divine walaya from Tawheed. And from Tawheed to Ma'ad, separates the three together. Then what happens? Then a person who's been inflicted with this starts to ask few questions. And the questions are like this. Is tawassul really in line with Tawheed? Is asking the Nabi and the Imams for help really in line with Tawheed? It goes further. When you go for ziyarah, when you go for Hajj in particular, and the ziyarah of Medina, you encounter individuals that have been afflicted with this type of waswas in their root belief system. When you go and you want to ask the Nabi for du'as, when you want to stand before the Holy Prophet and ask for something, somebody who's inflicted with this type of waswas in their root belief system questions your action. Is this action of asking a divine wali in line with Tawheed or not? He sees the deformed tree that he has as the real one. And he starts to reject the actual tree itself. He didn't consider that perhaps what he had was infected with termites. See, his faith was not based off of understanding. Let's resolve this extreme right here and right now. Now I have two kids. Okay? Imagine I have two kids. I have three in reality. I have two kids, let's say. A brother and a sister. Okay? I tell the sister, the younger one, let's say, if you're getting in trouble for something, go ask your older brother for help. If she's getting stuck somewhere and she goes to her older brother, is this not an example of obedience to me? It is. So, in the very similar manner, tawassul really is obedience and submission towards Tawheed. We're not going, remember what you said? That our root belief systems aren't separated into three things. We're not going to the Wali of Allah. We're not going to the Nabi, the Imam Ma'soom, as a separate, independent thing from listening to Allah. In fact, Allah is the one that's encouraged us and said, if you get stuck, if you don't know how to come to me, go to these individuals. They know how to come, they will help you. So in this case, tawassul is sourced in Tawheed. If you separate the three root belief systems, you get stuck. This next extreme that I want to example, the example that I want to mention reminds me of this scenario. See, sometimes you have a person who's about to jump off of a roof, and you're telling him, please go back, don't jump off. And instead of jumping from this side of the roof, they back up so much that they fall off the other end. This next extreme is like that as well. Here too, Waswas comes and does what? Exactly in the first case scenario. It first separates the three root belief systems. Tawheed, the origin, the destination, and the in-between are no longer linked. Tawheed is not seen as the origin, and Ma'ad is not seen as a return to the origin. And the in-between is not seen as guidance for man to go from where he is towards the right destination. So Waswas comes, separates the three root belief system in your hearts. What happens then? The wilaya for certain individuals, this divine guidance, gets seen now as something independent. It becomes the origin and the destination in the wrong sense. It is no longer an in between to take you from where you are towards a right destination. Rather, it itself becomes your destination. What happens then? Certain good practices that the Ahl Bayt were telling us and prescribing to us, they themselves follow. Now this person starts to back away from those practices. When the Ahl Bayt greeted one another, we recite Hadith Kisa, right? It's a hadith which talks about the Ahl Bayt greeting one another. When they greeted one another, how did they greet each other? They said, Salaamu Alaikum. Now this person inflicted with this particular issue starts to change. I said, no, I want to show that I have this wilaya significantly high inside myself. And he transgresses. He goes further beyond what the Ahl Bayt did there in their actions. He goes beyond that. Now when he meets another believer, he says, Ya Ali. Is Ya Ali a bad thing to say? No. It's an extremely good thing to say. But again, remember, everything has a purpose. The Ahl Bayt, did they not know that Ya Ali is a good thing to say? We have riwayat mentioning the name of Imam Ali is ibadah. Hadith Kisa, pick it up. When Imam Hassan comes to Sayyidah Fatima to Zahra and he wants to enter into the cloak, does he say Ya Ali or does he say Salamu Alaik? If I'm somebody who understood them to be guides, right, then I have to follow in their example. So if my root belief system is leading me to do certain actions which seem to be apparently off from what the guides themselves were doing, a question mark should be raised within me. What's the source now? God forbid I may have termites. Salawat, please. So, When this divine wilaya is separated from the tawheed, what are you doing? You're separating really this willing submission toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and this willing submission towards the Imam. You're separating them. But what does the Quran tell us? The Quran says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, wa ati'u Allah wa Rasul. Why? Why do ita'at of Allah and the Rasul? لَأَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. Okay? The Quran comes and gives us advice here, says, hold your horses. Don't let these root belief systems separate. We have willing submission towards the Ahlul Bayt. We have willing submission towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are not two separate things. The Ahlul Bayt are the in-between, leading us to the right destination. What is the right destination? It is a return to Allah. Return towards Tawheed. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. So sometimes this waswas comes and it deforms the meaning of imamat for us. And when it deforms the meaning of imamat for us, it causes sometimes an imbalance in our actions. Remember, saying Ya Ali is ibadah. It's not a bad thing. I am not prohibiting the utterance of Ya Ali. Let's look at some other examples. So in these examples, you'll notice both items are good, but what's happening is that there is an imbalance taking place. Now this person who has waswas affecting him in his root belief system of imamat, okay, he strives to raise the alam, he strives to raise the tabut in the love of Abu Abdullah. But he does not strive to raise himself for salah. There's an imbalance taking place. Is raising the alam in the love of Abu Abdullah a good thing? Of course it is. Is kissing his blessed name on a flag a good thing? Of course is it. It is. Is striving towards that a good thing? Absolutely yes. The key point is that there's an imbalance happening here. What was the purpose of the divine wilaya? It was to take us to the right destination. The right destination was the return to Tawheed. Well, this person who finds that in his root belief system he has this immense love of Imam Hussein, he's saying that I love Abu Abdullah and this is why I want to go raise the flag. I want to go lift the tabut. We should ask himself, am I lifting myself up for salah or no? Because that's one of the things Abu Abdullah wants from me too. Let's give one more example, then we'll continue. This person strikes his chest hard when it comes to matam. He even hopes that it bleeds so he could be proud that, look, I struck my chest so hard for the love of Abu Abdullah. I didn't care for my own personal pain. I love Abu Abdullah. Within the bounds of his deen, his sharia, he wants to show that he loves his imam. He doesn't transgress there, but there's an imbalance. Does he strike himself when he's about to go near sin or no? Matam and azadari is an extremely important thing in our life. It's the thing that keeps us alive. It's otherwise would be dead. A religion without wilaya, a religion without Aba Abdullah is not a religion for us. But there's balance that needs to be maintained. The active strive that I have towards serving the tent of Aba Abdullah, that has to be coupled with active strive towards my return to the origin. Because that's the purpose of divine wilaya. Divine wilaya was what? It was a system placed to guide us to the right destination. And the right destination is the return to Tawheed. Here's an example to display what I mean by here. When you take a kid and you want to get a passport picture taken, right? And let's say you took an infant with you, okay? Now the infant is looking here and the infant is looking there. Okay. So now the mom or the dad who's taking the infant with them, they want to point the infant's attention towards the camera. They want to say, hey, look, the camera is over there. They take their hand and they're pointing towards the camera. And the infant, he just looks at the hand. He gets preoccupied with the hand. What was the purpose of this hand? It was pointing towards the camera. Look, camera right there. But the infant gets preoccupied with the hand, not seeing it as a pointing, ignores the pointing, and then hence ignores the camera. That's one effect of somebody whose root belief system of Imamate gets some termites in it. Let's look at a second effect. Sometimes, before we go into the second effect, let me tell you something. See, a person who doesn't know and knows that he doesn't know, this is a good person. A person who doesn't know something and he knows that he doesn't know. So I don't know how to fix cars, and I know that I don't know how to fix cars. So if you're going to come to me and say, Syed, can you help me fix cars? Because I know I don't know, I'll say, I'm sorry, that's not the right guy for the job. Okay. Who's a dangerous person? There are people who don't know, and they don't know that they don't know. This is a dangerous person. They're a danger to themselves and to others. If I didn't know that I don't know how to fix cars, I was pretending that I knew how to fix cars, and I helped you fix your car, good luck getting home. Okay? What happens in this second issue is that because we don't know the true position of this divine system, this divine wilaya system, we've separated it from Tawheed, we've separated from Ma'ad. It is no longer the in-between. It becomes our independent variable. We belittle it while thinking we're praising it. Let me give you an example to clarify what I mean. In the first few nights when I came to speak here, one of the brothers came and he introduced me. He said, we're in the presence of Fulani, and he's going to come give us speeches here and there. If he was mentioning my traits and in praising me, he said, he knows how to button his shirt and he knows how to chew his food. These are his virtues. In trying to praise me, those things being put in the position of a praise is actually belittling that particular person, putting him down, really. There's much more to be had there than buttoning his shirts and chewing his food. We falsely then, if we have this corrosion, if this we have this termites in the root system of Imamat, and we've separated from Tawheed, we've separated from Ma'ad, we don't see it sourced in divine principles. We don't see it sourced in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We start to think that the apex of their kamal, the apex of their virtues, is that they were able to kill a lot of people. They were able to take a door and throw it so far away. We bind them to these things, these actions for Abu Abdullah, for the Ahlul Bayt. These aren't the real virtues, they're true. Can I button my shirt? Yes, I can. Can I chew my food? Yes, I can. Are these virtues for me? I hope not. The Ahlul Bayt can do these things. But by placing these things as their apex of virtues, I recognize the Imam as somebody who threw the door. In fact, I end up belittling that very thing I was trying to praise in actuality. Remember, who are the dangerous people? Who don't know, and they don't know that they don't know. Salawat, please. So tonight, in our historic example, we're going to look at one apex quality of an Imam. Apex quality of the Imam. Who's an Imam? An Imam is someone sourced in Tawheed. See, if I restrict history to just facts and figures, then it has very little benefit for me. Only when I start to take some meaning from it in assistance of my 24 hours today, now I'm giving history power. Now I'm allowing history to cause real change. Okay? So focus on these examples. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. One of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's mentioned in dua iftitah, it's that He forgave even though He had the power of everything. Okay? We refer to Allah with this. He said, Alhamdulillah alladhi, the hamd, praise be towards Allah. Which Allah? How do we describe Him there? The one who forgives while He has all the power. Keep this in mind. We're talking about an apex trait of who? Someone who's sourced in Tawheed. So these traits of Tawheed we start to see played out in this person's actions. Assalamu ala awliya illahi wa asfiya'ih. Assalamu ala umana illahi wa ahibba'ih. Assalamu ala ansar illahi wa khulafa'ih. We're saying salam to our Imam now. Salam to the one who helped Allah. Salam to the one who was a supporter of Allah. Salam to the one who was the representative of Allah. not separate from him. السلام على محال معرفة الله. السلام على مساكن ذكر الله. السلام على مظهر أمر الله ونحيه. Or the one who makes apparent the amr of Allah, and he makes apparent that which Allah has forbidden. He acts upon that. He shows to people, listen, Allah has forbidden this, stay away from it. السلام على الدعاة إلى الله. Peace be upon you. Salam to you, O Hussein, the caller towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What was the trait of Allah? وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ عَلَىٰ عَفْوِهِ بَعْدَ قُدْرَتِهِ. Let's see how Abu Abdullah manifested this trait. Let's see how Abu Abdullah manifested this trait of Allah on earth. You see, Hur, he was sent with 1,000 soldiers to stop Abu Abdullah. Look how Hur is developing his heart throughout this journey. He's sent with 1,000 soldiers to stop Abu Abdullah. Prayer times hits. Hur, being the leader of 1,000 people, could have gone and prayed separately. He comes to Abu Abdullah and he brings the thousands as well. He says, while you are here, Abu Abdullah, how can I lead prayer? How can we have a separate prayer from you while you are here? Now Hur, being at that time on the side of the people stopping Abu Abdullah, starts to develop his heart. He's developing it for the divine inspirations. He's showing adab here. He's still coming here with 1,000 people strong, trying to stop Abu Abdullah. But this one action of his starts to fix his heart a little bit now. It prepares him for divine inspiration. Look at the adab of Hur. And when the Imam sees the adab of Hur, the Imam wants to guide him further. How does the Imam guide him further? The Imam gives him one more opportunity to show himself. The Imam says to him, ثَكَلَتْكَ أُمُّكَ مَا تُرِيد. May your mother mourn over you. مَا تُرِيد. What do you want from us? When Abu Abdullah now wants to return back to Medina and saying, look, if you're not going to let us go forward, then at least let us go back. Hur, with these 1,000 men, stop him there too. And Abu Abdullah is using this chance to give Hur an opportunity. See, in this stage, when Abu Abdullah talks like this harshly with Hur, Hur has two routes that he can take. He could give in to the Wasswas and reply in kind, or he can take from divine inspiration. Let's see how he replies. Hur says, Wallah mali ila dhikri ummik min sabilin illa bi ahsani ma nuqaddiru alay. What did he say? He said, I swear to Allah, Wallah, there is no mention of your mother, Sayyidah Zahra, except that it's with the best of mentions, in line with her high status. Hur uses the opportunity Abu Abdullah gives him to its fullest. he develops his heart to be able to get more divine inspirations. Once caught between heaven and hell, what saved you, Yahor? I need to learn from you, so speak, Yahor. I'm caught as well in a different time, but the fire remains the same. Separation from Al Hussein is a stain for which I can't bear the shame. On the day of Ashura, Nahor realizes what he's done, and he set his heart towards Abu Abdullah. He comes and he joins Abu Abdullah's army. And Abu Abdullah, the manifestation of the traits of Allah, forgives him. Not only forgives him, but invites him in. Not only invite him, but look how Abu Abdullah treats him. Or asks permission to go and fight. And says, oh Abu Abdullah, I want to defend you and I want to defend your household. He goes and he fights. The enemies of Allah, the enemies of Abu Abdullah, the enemies of the A'immah, they take their hatred out on the companions of the A'immah. They shower him with arrows. They hurt him. They're out to get him. That hatred that they have towards Abu Abdullah, they want to take it out on Hur. How dare he leave our side and go towards Abu Abdullah? But Hur, look at Hur. He's dissolved in the divine. He sees nothing but his master. He's being led towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he falls from his horse, he's blessed with Abu Abdullah being there. Abu Abdullah comes to him. Imam puts his hand on the face of Hur and he caresses and comforts him. And he tells him a few things. He says, Anta Hur kama summiyatka ummuk. You were free just like how your mother named you. Anta Hur fi dunya. In this world you were a free man. Free from what? Free from transgression. In this dunya you were a free man. You freed yourself from transgression. And what's the result of that? وَأَنْتَ حُرٌّ فِي الْآخِرَةِ. You're a free man in the akhirah as well. You don't get the effects of transgression in the akhirah. Where is the hand of Allah? And where is this face drowning in this world? We're talking to Abu Abdullah now together. We're talking to Abu Abdullah and remembering how he caressed the face of Hur. And we're giving ourselves some divine inspirations to take a lesson from history. Where is the hand of Allah? And where is this face drowning in this world? How I meet him at my end is based in my choices in this world. There is no corrupting this hand. It does what it does in the hereafter and in this world. The hand of Allah, it strikes the wrongdoers and comforts the likes of Hur. Be it here, be it in the hereafter, or be it in this world. لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين.